This is Made to Build by the HIA, the podcast that gets into real stuff that matters in residential building. The wins, the lessons, and practical tips from people shaping the industry today.
Today on the show we have Anthony Igmen from Specialised Solar and Electrical.
Thanks for having me. When we visit with builders, we sit down and we understand their business, what they want to achieve and give them, a brief run through, but more importantly, we support them.
How involved are you with the builder?
We go above and beyond, I suppose. Instead of just saying, hey, you need 20 panels, it's like, well, what's the end goal here? What are you really trying to achieve?
If I want to introduce AI in my home, how can I have an infrastructure that will support that?
AI I believe, is going to be part of the future, but I think the good old-fashioned customer service should still be alive and true.
I don't think it'll ever be able to replace it.
No, me neither. Creating a culture is such a big thing.
Is that how you form your team, based off culture?
100%.
My co-host, Owen Basderrick.
Yep. Welcome, everyone.
Good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, great to be here. So
Fantastic.
Today on the show we have Anthony Igmen from Specialised Solar and Electrical. Looking forward to really digging into what he's about.
Absolutely.
His
Absolutely.
personal stories and
I think one of the things as a builder is that there's always you know how to build, you know how to pour concrete, you know how to frame up a house and all that sort of thing. But where it begins to get complex is when you get into more technical aspects of a build and talking about how it is that you integrate the work of the sparky into your work. So and also all of the changes that have happened in that industry over the last 10 years, and there are more to come. Like it's only going to evolve more.
It's a rapid evolving industry.
Absolutely.
You constantly need to be on the edge of that innovation and just pushing to stay up to date with the standards.
Spot on. And I think so really, Anthony, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're from Specialised Solar and Electrical, and you're a renewable energy expert, so with 15 years experience in the industry. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and your passion and why you really want to be involved in helping the industry move forward with renewable energy and the way that builders implement this in their projects?
I guess there's a little bit to unpack there, but obviously I've been in the industry now since 2009. My business has been operating since 2015. We're based out the southeast suburbs of Melbourne. Being that I've been in the industry for 15 or so years, I've actually experienced a lot of the ups and downs and obviously the transitions from really high feed-in tariffs, what they used to have in Victoria, 60, 70 cents per kilowatt hour, to now next to nothing, right? So the conversations have changed since then, where it's not focused around how much I'm saving or making, I suppose. It's about how energy efficient I can be within my home and utilize as much of that power as possible.
Yep.
So I guess I'm passionate about electrification, energy efficiency, and being able to, help mums and dads, builders, architects just navigate their way through electrification itself.
Yep.
Get access to all the subsidies and just point them in the right direction to ensure they're making the right decisions.
Yeah. And so I know for me, whenever a client would ask me about, what about solar panels? What about a battery? What about this? What about the other? As a builder, I'd always feel as though I sort of knew a little bit about it, but I didn't feel as though I was equipped to really give them an overly technical response. Yeah. What's a good way for builders who want to be able to have those conversations in a way that really informs the client? What's a good way for a builder to get up to speed, so that when they have those conversations, they're really delivering a lot of value to the client, and that actually helps the client build trust in the builder. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the tips that you would give to builders who want to get up to speed on this sort of stuff?
The tips I'd provide for them is reach out to some experts in the field. Yep. Such as ourselves. There's many like us, but I guess choosing the right one to move forward with is obviously critical. But making sure that you're asking the right questions, and when we visit with builders, we sit down and we understand their business, what they want to achieve and what type of solutions they've heard of and they want to know more about, and then we give them, a brief run through, but more importantly, we support them. So you can't go through everything in the first conversation, but just being there, on dial, just to make sure that, hey, I've got this tricky one, do you reckon you could answer these questions for me to, assist or be a point of contact for their clients to have a chat to?
Yeah. Okay.
What extent does your company actually go to? So you just focus entirely on solar and electrical, or like how involved are you with the builder?
Good question. Previously, early days, it was all just about solar. It's like, I want solar, let's just put, 20 panels on my roof, or 10 panels back then. Now it's electrification. So there's more involved. People transitioning away from gas. Builders are wondering, what kind of products can I provide and suggest to my end clients? What are the best solutions, and if there's any subsidies, that type of thing. So I guess circling back to your question is, we go above and beyond, I suppose. Instead of just saying, hey, you need 20 panels, it's like, well, what's the end goal here? What are you really trying to achieve? Do you want to talk about full electrification and what products you can, actually suggest to your end clients, and maybe incorporate that in your base design,
So do you tear it all the way back to say, what are the appliances that you have within the home? And then you kind of work in reverse.
Yeah, basically. So the base load is really important, understanding what appliances, heating, cooling, your hot water is a big thing at the moment. And then also just power supply. A lot of conversations are around single phase or three phase. Do I actually need that? Especially when you add induction cooktops to the mix. I'll say use a bit of power. But if you design it correctly, you don't necessarily have to go to three-phase power. So, which is something that a lot of people are finding.
Yeah. Anthony, can I ask, when a builder wants to engage, the services of a company like yours, I mean, what does best practice look like? Like, what's the process that you go through to make sure that the builder gets the outcome they want, but also the client gets the outcome they want?
I guess it's pretty straightforward. It can be. It's more a case of just being prepared for the meeting. So we obviously have those conversations prior to meeting up face to face. We like that, having that element in place. Making sure that we understand what kind of designs they're working with, right? A big topic of conversation is roughing in of certain appliances, So we talk to them about, hey, what kind of appliances you're putting in for the property itself? Are you looking at the heating, cooling, which is electric, heat pumps, induction cooktops, etc.?
Yep.
And also placement for batteries and solar PV panels. That's been a big one lately because a lot of people are wanting to have their inverters and batteries installed in the garage. So just coming prepared, the designs, from the get-go really helps, because if we can iron out all those things at the start, then it just runs smoothly, obviously.
How early on do you think is prime for you guys to be engaged and brought into the project?
Look, from design stage, we'd feel, because then they can ask questions about what's required from us, to make it easier and also have a really nice finish. There's obviously so many regulations and requirements for us to have in place for the electrical wiring. That we want to have those conversations early on, and just make sure we're within the build. So we usually get in before plaster, obviously, but yeah.
That's a really interesting point you make, because one of the things that the trends that we're seeing in the industry is that most builders are wanting to be more involved earlier in the design phase, and so and what you've just said is that really the trades, or I'll call you guys trades, should also be engaged in that design phase. So that's and so builders at this point, I think, would like to have more input, but you're saying that it also makes sense for you guys to have more input. With architects and designers doing this stuff at the moment, be it, and most architects and designers that I come across, they're quite passionate about renewable energy and doing all of that. Do you find that they are up to speed on what they need to be, and that they're actually able to go ahead and they're designing to what is I shouldn't say best practice, but something that's going to work in a practical sense, and build, and this is a separation that builders and architects have always had, but it can be a positive thing as well. When you're trying to achieve aesthetic and functionality with practicality, how do you meld them together?
Just having in-depth conversations about it, being open to different ideas, and things are going to change, right? But if you get it right the first time and spend the time, it usually works out well. Say, for instance, hydronic heating is another one that people are talking about, especially with architects. They obviously don't want to be installing the gas traditional gas boilers. It's an electric solution. So, they've been requested a lot more by their clients to, include this in their builds, but they don't really quite have the expertise to be able to size it up correctly and incorporate that within the design. So they speak to us about that, and we obviously are early on in the design space to accommodate for it.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned a little bit earlier on, you talked about subsidies.
Yep.
All right. Now, I know that when I was building, whenever a client talked about, we want to put solar panels on, we want to do this, we want to do that, I would always go, okay, so we can certainly facilitate that for you, but the regulations at the times and the way the incentives and rebates worked, and this is in Victoria, it almost worked out better for the client to go ahead and do it directly.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would ask that question, and you'd sort of go, okay, well, yeah, we can absolutely do this and make this work, but it makes more sense for you to do it. Has the industry evolved in regards to the best way of implementing that? And I imagine it's different in every state.
Yeah. It has. It's gotten better, let's put it that way, right? Where previously, like you said, it was more a case of just going direct and doing after the build. And we would have maybe shorter conversations around just roughing in of the electrical in certain locations, but getting, access sometimes was difficult. But nowadays, builders are a lot more open, to having us on, is ensuring that, we obviously follow best practices and we're a part of the build from the design side. But access to subsidies, as you asked, they're getting a lot better to allow new builds to get access to these subsidies at build stage instead of it after, when it's actually been put into the end customer's name.
Was that typically not the case in past years?
Yeah, it was typically not the case. They wouldn't allow you to get access to subsidies unless the bill was complete and then it was in the customer's name, which
It's the old horse and cart argument.
It is, yeah. And we obviously pushed back a lot, but at the end of the day, we just tried to do the best we could with what we had, which was, if you can help us get access to the build prior to plaster going up, we can do all the electrical wiring for you and get it ready.
Yep.
So it's a lot easier and aesthetically more pleasing, instead of having everything external. And that worked with a few builders, but also they're a little bit hesitant, allowing you to be in there prior to it being handed over. So
because a lot of builders are really protective of their systems and what they have set in place.
Yeah.
Has your point in the market really shifted in the last few years with these subsidies? So going from more of, say, a renovational extension kind of place in the market to a place now where you're working with builders?
Yeah, you're right. It used to be just renovations previously, existing homes, but now, with the, the access to subsidies at build stage, we're obviously engaging with a lot more architects and builders specifically saying, hey, we trust you, get involved. Our clients want this, this, and this. Can you assist us?
So that's really boosted your company then?
100%. Yeah. And just opened up the network of, partners that we could have, because they're, again, like I said before, builders are focusing on so many things, so many moving parts. If we can just provide some value in saying, hey, when it comes to electrification, just rely on us, understand the processes, we'll fit within your processes, and we'll, at the end of the day, provide a solution that's best suited for the customer.
Yeah, nice.
So here's one out of left field. Can you tell me, with things like AI in the home?
Yeah.
And look, with AI, sort of none of us really know what's around the corner because it all evolves in a way it could be anything.
Yeah. How
can builders facilitate? Because inevitably, fast forward. In fact, clients are probably even having it now with builders. If I want to introduce AI in my home, how can I have an infrastructure that will support that?
Yep.
So how can they be ready for those conversations?
It's a good question. Automation and energy management systems, or EMSs, is becoming mainstream now, where a lot of these products are integrated with one another, and you can have, so many different products, and then have a base that they all connect to, right? Which you can manage, control, and optimize. Yep. So that's a part of the conversation we have with builders around, what kind of, first of all, appliances or solutions you're going to install, and then try to provide them with solutions that they basically talk to one another.
Yep. Okay.
Does that go into, say, like having Alexa in your home? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about with AI? Or how does that link in? Because I don't really understand how that works.
Yeah, so it's still, I guess, early days with
Yeah.
the type of platform that everyone should be rolling out with. You have, I guess, with the solar side of things that we're experiencing at the moment, products like Sig Energy have like ChatGPT that are allowing the installers to assist with the installation. So if there's any issues with the install, they can ask questions of it to then obviously make sure it's installed correctly. But then having integration with all these other products, you have, I guess, external platforms that you can look at, but they're more of a developer side of things, if that makes sense. It's not your traditional mainstream, your mums and dads can get access to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of automation out there, especially with heating and cooling systems that they have in place that you can control from your apps and integrate, etc. But trying to find a solution that integrates them all together, there's not something that's mainstream currently that's on offer. So
Can you see that happening in the future?
100%. They're all talking about it.
Yeah.
They're like, I've got this one solution that, say for instance, with a heating and cooling system, they have like a third party option which can talk to all different products, and manage, the HVAC system within the home. So that's, I guess, slowly growing where it's just HVAC and number of different protocols for different equipment and manufacturers to then go, all right, well, if we can do that, we could probably incorporate heat pumps to run at certain times. We can incorporate, battery storage or EV charging stations, in the home. And then AI will quickly become something that they can rely on to automate things and just be more energy efficient without having to think too much, I suppose.
So bringing AI into your home, does that pose a security risk at all to the people living in it, or what does that look like?
Honestly, I'm not an expert on AI, right? But I guess when posing a security risk, I guess we have that already in place with our mobile phones and how much access we give them, to the apps, etc., that we use. So AI I believe, is going to be part of the future, and we just got to be more educated around, what we use it for and how we use it for, and do your research. Understand what products are going within your home and where your data is going and those types of things. Because we get asked that question a lot: is how secure is my data? Who has access to it, and those types of things.
Yeah. Do you think that's the future of your company explicitly, or how do you see your company evolving in the future?
AI is definitely part of it, and I think there's no denying it's going to be a part of many businesses moving forward. AI has so many functions, automation, just buying back time for us, business owners. Definitely we'll evolve in that space. We're already currently using it right now. But I think the good old-fashioned customer service, right, should still be alive and true, okay? Because having an actual person to speak to and discuss those things, that's an element that AI, I don't think, will be able to.
I don't think it'll ever be able to replace it.
No, me neither. Connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually talking to a real person. I don't know if you experienced it, but I've spoken to AI with some other businesses, especially marketing businesses. Yeah, and I'm like, this is definitely AI. Definitely. So.
All right. Now, I've got something that I was meant to do earlier was actually ask you to take part in a game that we've got.
Okay.
So, Anthony, as part of your initiation to Made to Build, okay, we've got a game that we play and it's called Under the Hammer. All right. Now, in front of you on the table, there are 3 hammers. Each of them has a question under the hammer, and I'm going to ask you to choose, and you've got to choose carefully, because there are some dodgies in the questions.
They're loaded.
They are loaded questions for sure. So I'm just wondering if you might like to pick up one hammer and answer that question.
All right.
Or else.
Yeah, or else. Okay, let's go with this one. If you could say something to your younger self, what would you say? Good question. Slow down, I reckon. Yeah, for me, I think just celebrate the wins. There's a lot of learning that you're going through and also you're going to go through in the future. So I guess just make the most of that time, while you have it and embrace it, I feel. Yeah.
Is that something you missed?
How do you mean?
Did you miss slowing down and enjoying the wins and the small victories?
I think so. I was always looking for the next thing, another way to level myself up, which is a positive, of course. But I think as we evolve and grow, you should really appreciate the times, that you've and the effort you've put in to get to where you are at that point in time, and then you go into the next one. So.
Yeah. Do you think by enjoying those little victories, you could have brought your company to where it is today? Or is it entirely disassociated?
Yeah.
How does that look for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think just more satisfaction in what I was doing. I think instead of just always trying to hustle for the next thing, it's like, man, you did a really good thing there. There's a lot of growth in that part of your life, and I don't know, maybe just reflecting a little bit more. I think as I get a little bit older, that they're things that I really appreciate more, especially having kids now. Just slowing down and appreciating the wins. And look, it may have taken me in a different direction. I may have fast-tracked myself because I'm just more aware of, what I experienced. And then, it honed in my senses, to, I guess, other opportunities and different people and networks, etc.
So your advice to a younger version of yourself would be to slow down, enjoy the victories.
Smell the roses.
Smell the roses.
I know, I've never thought I'd be one to say that kind of stuff. But basically, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And so with just thinking about the journey you've been on and what the future looks like, obviously electrification is a massive part of our future. Renewable in particular. What sort of advice strategically should builders consider? So, say for example, are there specializations that builders could start moving into? And so and I'm just pondering this. I mean, like something like the ultimately renewable home, or so that's when you start getting into passive housing and that sort of thing. So what's been your experience in that space, and also what opportunities are there for builders from a strategic perspective in that?
It's a good question. I see there's already a significant movement in that direction of passive homes and being as energy efficient as possible, having on-site generation and storage, and just electrifying your home to be more self-sufficient, so less reliance on the grid. I think that's something more people are wanting these days, especially when they're starting to build. You go through you're speaking to second and third home buyers that are like, okay, my first one was just to get into the market. My second and third, I really want to think about it, and it's like a long-term plan for me. And there's a lot more people wanting to do more for the environment, So I guess as a builder, understanding what's on offer in those spaces and aligning yourselves with professionals within the industry that do it every day, and just collaborating more. I think we're getting to a stage now where there's more of that, where previously it wasn't. It was like, you stay in your lane, I'll stay in mine type of thing. Where now it's moving so quickly, it's sort of out after where we're wanting to lean on each other's experiences.
It's more of a collective effort.
Yeah. It's. I see this shift is that it's more focused on the customer experience and the future requirements for what they're after.
Yeah. Okay.
So not necessarily thinking about how this can benefit you now. It's 5 years down the track.
And having those conversations, it's different, but 10, 15 years ago, it's just like, let's just build a house, this is what you've got, it's off the plan, away you go. But now they're talking about, right, I would like these types of appliances, I want to be as energy efficient as possible.
Yep.
What star rating, is this home? I'm thinking about an EV, what do you know about EVs? What kind of power supply, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if builders can have a base understanding, which most of them do, but they can have an expert in that field, I feel like it just takes the burden off them having to know everything.
Yep.
Also providing the best value and service to their
It's changing
clients.
territory, isn't it? It's like it's constantly evolving, and it's evolving relatively quickly. Yeah.
That's something I did want to touch on because it evolves so quickly in the electrical sector.
Yeah.
How does that look like for you when you're trying to give the ideal product to a client when they come to you and they want something specific and they want it now? How do you best set them up for their future?
Another good question. I think it's to it's to do with a lot of our partners that we partner with within the industry. So manufacturers and people that have been in the space for a long time. Say, for instance, Stiebel. They're a leader in their field when it comes to heat pumps and heating and cooling systems, etc. So we lean on them to ensure that we have the best technology and the knowledge and the education to be able to pass that on to the end consumer, builders, architects, and ensure that design works well for everyone.
Okay.
And so can you just tell me, Anthony, a little bit more about specialised solar and electrical? What's your point of difference? What makes you different to other companies that are operating in the same space?
What makes a difference, I guess, it's our process. We're not a company that just picks up the phone and tries to build a solution within 20 minutes, right? It is actually getting an understanding of what you're trying to achieve holistically. It's not just about solar. It's not just about batteries. It's about a full ecosystem, let's say we call it. Understanding their needs, not just now, but into the future. So we have conversations around, electric vehicles, induction cooktops, heating, cooling systems, that kind of stuff, and just help them feel empowered to make the right decision when it comes to electrification. So when they leave us, I guess they feel more confident and comfortable that this is the right path to take.
Yep, fantastic.
Should we do the next hammer?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing more than one hammer, are we?
It's all three.
Oh, we're doing all three, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise that.
Yep, let's do
Okay.
three. All right.
All right.
This one is, how do you guys blow off steam? Me specifically, I've just got into running. So when I have a bit of a stressful day, I suppose, I like to go off and just have a decent run, just get some endorphins pumping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your current time and distance?
Oh, I'm not a fast runner. So I just like to get out there and just go the distance, I suppose. I'm currently training for a half marathon, which I'm not a runner previously. So even just doing 5 or 10 Ks was like, wow, I can actually do this.
Yep.
So yeah, I enjoy running. I enjoy what it does for me, not just physically, but mentally, just make sure that I'm nice and clear and I'm the best self that I can be for not just my company, but my family as well.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a really important thing, though, that you do look after your own health and your own well-being, and because let's face it, at the end of the day, if you're not in good nick yourself, your family suffers, your business suffers. Like it really is. It's the old adage that your health is the single most important thing.
It took me a long time to understand that. When you go into business, you just think, go, go, go. What's the next thing? And I need to do this, and business comes first, work comes first. But for the last couple of years, I've really focused on myself and my mental state and my physical state, and just being able to show up, at best I can. Because what my mentor said is that if you can't be the best version of yourself, how do you expect it to be for others, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, it's been a really big thing for me. It's not just working out, but eating right, and surrounding yourself with really good people. That definitely helps as well.
Absolutely. Now we're going to ask you to pick up the third hammer. Under the hammer.
Under the hammer. What are 3 words that define your journey? That's a good one on the spot, isn't it? 3 words. Look, I guess it's been an enjoyable ride. I've learnt a lot. Growth, is probably a big thing for me. 3 words that define my journey is positive growth. Sometimes that's good, bad, and ugly, I suppose. And the last one, I think culture. For me, that was something that in business, creating a company, creating a culture is such a big thing. Making sure you got people that are the right fit and understand the vision that you have for the business and what you're really trying to achieve.
Yep.
Yes, I guess just to be on the spot, that's probably the 3 things that I would.
Is that how you form your team, based off culture?
It's a big thing.
Rather than what their skill is, you just focus on culture and who they are as a person, and then the skill you can teach. Is that your model?
100%. Early days, it was trying to get people within the industry that had the knowledge and experience to come on board and add more value. But I found that unfortunately not all of them were a good fit, and we had more success with people that were willing, that came from a different industry, had, I guess, experience in face-to-face, sales and design and all that kind of stuff, like consultative type of approaches. And it was more focused on the experience of the customer, not just about the sale, It was about, hey, how can you make this person feel comfortable, encouraged, and just confident that they're making the right decisions with you. So.
Is that what gives your company that edge in your industry, you think? It's your customer service, your level that you can treat the clients with across the whole entire company?
I think so. Yeah, I feel like we've worked really hard to get it to this point where everyone is as a collective, they understand what the end goal is, which is a really positive experience for not just the end consumer, but all your partners. Because we all got to collaborate together to make it work, right?
Anthony, you mentioned a little bit earlier. You talked a little bit about star ratings. Can you just talk through new requirements that come out via the NCC, regularly? Can you talk through how can builders stay abreast of that and stay up to speed and make sure that they're implementing best practice and current practice in terms of the way that you deliver electrification?
That's a good point. We are experiencing that a little bit more often now, where they're coming to us asking what solutions are best suited to hit these specific requirements. The biggest one is probably on-site generation, compared to what is actually required on-site is what I've been talking to them more about. Yep. So we talk about, as you touched on before, just the base load, the appliances that are within the home, if they've got pools or spas or things like that, and then making sure that we, design an on-site generation system, and storage is there as well.
Yep.
That can provide the power required for that home.
Yeah. And do you have any? You're not a regulator, but do you have any insight as to what you anticipate is on the horizon for that kind of thing?
I guess as more builders step into it, I guess there'll be more collaboration with companies like mine, yep. where we'll be a part of the design more so. I think it's pushing us in that direction, and we can just lean on each other to provide the solutions that are required for those ratings.
Yeah, sure. And so, just taking that one step further, what are the three things that you feel every builder needs to know in order to implement a lot of that?
I guess being across the code itself, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Being up to date with it and discussing what they currently already know about it, and then coming to us with the designs. Custom builds are probably the hardest ones because they're custom, obviously, and just spending the time to be able to provide the correct solutions. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. Okay. So just is that three? We covered three?
No, I only covered one, really.
Oh, I can't let you get away with one. I want three.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think the design is probably, if you can focus more about that, everything else will just fall in line. Yeah. Once you understand all those nuances of the build and what's required, well then, design will come into play.
Yeah.
With this being your profession, what's something that you could say to builders that they can take into consideration if they don't engage you months in advance? Say the plan's already drawn.
Yep.
There's motion in play already. How can you best equip builders to make decisions before engaging you?
That's a good question.
Do you think it lies in really nutting out with the client what they want?
It's preparation, really. It's just being prepared. Yes, nutting out, sitting down. But before you sit down with your client, you got to have a base foundation of knowledge before you can have those conversations. So reaching out and having conversations with us about, hey, what are you experiencing? What are some of the things that end clients are wanting to know about? And then we provide them and arm them, I suppose, with topics and solutions. I suppose they can have discussions with the end client.
Yep. So given the new regulations in the new NCC, you'd say it's a necessity to really be engaged within the initial stages of the project?
Now more so than ever, because it's a requirement. Previously it was a nice to have, but now it's like, hey, you need to make sure you're ticking all these boxes. So, and you look, a lot of builders are reaching out, that they're not just putting to the side because they can't, and they're getting us involved in those design and those conversations, and sometimes even open us up to having conversations with the end client, going back and forth and collaborating.
Yeah, good stuff. Anthony, thanks for being on Made to Build. It's been really, I've really learned a lot. Your company is Specialised Solar and Electrical. Where can builders reach out to you on social or on the internet?
I guess on our website, first and foremost, which is specsolar.com.au.
Yep.
We're on socials, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So reach out and you can speak to us directly.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Owen?
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Anthony. You provided some really, really good insights into the industry, and it was a great conversation.
Fantastic. So this is Made to Build, and we hope you've enjoyed the episode. Tune back in 2 weeks' time when we'll be exploring more specialists within the industry. We'll see you then.
See you then.